What's going on, everybody? I got Alex Rosen from A-Roz Vivo with me. Alex, what's up, bro?
What's up, Brendan? Thanks for having me.
It's officially official. The NBA is back. We saw Lakers Clippers, the matchup we've all been waiting for. Some notable numbers. Kawhi Leonard had 28 points, along with Paul George shot 11 for 17 from the field with 30 points. Anthony Davis was a man amongst boys, dropping 34 points. And the only star who struggled, that was LeBron James with 16 points. He shot 6 of 19 from the field. Alex, what are your initial thoughts?
I thought it was a really good opening night for the NBA. I thought the Lakers Clippers game was pretty exciting all the way through. Obviously, it came down to the very end. It was a 2-point game, 103 for the Lakers, 101 for the Clippers. Went right down to the wire. A lot of things to look at this game, but I'm not going to overreact to this that the Lakers won, nor should Clipper fans overreact to the fact that they lost. Both sides have things to be excited about, and both teams have things that they know they need to work on. On the Clippers side, they know that they're going to get the support of Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, two vital pieces coming off their bench. That's definitely going to play a role for them going forward the rest of the season, and it's definitely going to elevate them as a team. And on the Lakers side, I think the two biggest positives you can take away from this is, one, despite the fact that LeBron James did not play up to his typical level, what you did get out of him as Lakers fans, you got to be thrilled to see his defense last night. He played pretty stellar defense, honestly, especially in year 17. That's pretty much all you could ask for with LeBron James. When he's not having a great game, doing everything else offensively, at least he's playing really good defense on that side of the floor. And we really saw it, especially down the stretch, including the final possession against Paul George, where he really locked him up and forced him to take a bad shot at the end. But LeBron James, he's going to get it done. You shouldn't worry, Lakers fans. This is obviously the first game. This was expected. I mean, it would have been hard to imagine LeBron James right out of the gate going off for some crazy 40-plus point triple-double game like he would typically have in a pivotal game in the playoffs. So as Lakers fans, the fact that you still won this game, even though LeBron James really played pretty subpar, only, if you just looked at the statistics, if you didn't look at his field goal percentage, you'd be like, okay, 16, 11, and 7, that's not a bad game. But, I mean, he shot 6 of 19 from the field, so that's not really up to LeBron James's level when it comes to efficiency. We all know he can be far better than that. So that, and then look, Anthony Davis, that's why the Lakers got him. He had a pretty big game. I mean, he didn't have a great fourth quarter, but look, the guy put up 34, 8, and 4, 16 of 17 from the free throw line. I mean, the guy was a monster. I mean, that's exactly why the Lakers made the trade to acquire him, is to take some pressure and take the load off LeBron, and that's exactly what he did. He did his job last night.
Some positives, some negatives. But one thing I want to say, my go-to line, my favorite line, I said, if you were gonna tell me that LeBron was gonna have 16 points, shoot 6 of 19 from the field, and you said the Lakers were gonna win, I'm gonna go to my favorite line and said that they have less than a 0% chance, and I'm going against probability. That's my favorite line. When I hear someone talking nonsense, I say you're going against probability. And if you told me that stat line with the Lakers win, that's exactly what I would tell you. The Clippers are not at full strength, so like I said before, I'm not going to take this game too seriously. I don't think it means too much. The Lakers pretty much have the 1 seed wrapped up. The Clippers are, in fact, only 1 game of the Denver Nuggets as we speak today for the 2 seed. So the Clippers do have to fight for that 2 seed. Not that it really matters all that much because there's no home court advantage. But 3 of the 4 stars showed up, and 1 of them didn't. And the best player of those 4 did not show up, and that was LeBron James. He was awful. I expect him to play poorly, but I did not expect this bad. I mean, he looked out of sync, out of rhythm. I mean, usually when he's driving like a locomotive downhill, it's an automatic layup. He'll do his dribble left, spin right. He didn't have that. He was stumbling over his own feet, taking charges, bad passes, turnovers. He was awful. But one thing I got to mention, though, I got to give him credit for, his defense. It looked like he turned back the clock 5 years ago. I mean, wow, 7 years ago. He looked like that Miami defensive player last night. He locked up Kawhi Leonard at the end of the game, locked up Paul George as well, had a few critical stops from Kawhi in the second quarter. I mean, in terms of defense, he was right there. But his shot, oh boy, that was brutal. But you know what? He came in clutch when he needed him to. He got that goal. He got the game tying layup, I believe, with 48 seconds, and then he had his putback with 12 seconds to give the Lakers the lead. But one guy got to give credit to, and that's Anthony Davis. He was a monster. The Clippers have no answer for him. The Clippers built their team around to stop LeBron, but they have nothing to go against Anthony Davis. And don't tell me, oh, Montrezl Harrell is going to guard Anthony Davis. They don't have anyone who could size up with Anthony Davis. He was a monster, but some things that we've seen to be a pattern now, Anthony Davis not showing up in the fourth quarter, that could be an issue. But another guy I want to give credit, Kyle Kuzma is awesome. I think he shot 4 of 7 from three-point range. If he's knocking down shots and he could be that third option, it's pretty much a wrap. Like I said before, the Lakers, this season is in the hands of LeBron James. If he plays like zero dark 30 mode like he's been, I understand he's going to be on his phone. Conversation for another day. But if he's doing that 35-point triple-double, which we seen him do the last time he was in the postseason, this season is a wrap. But Kawhi Leonard still played well. He looked pretty bad in the scrimmages, but he had 19 points in the first half. He had a big first half. He kind of cooled down in the second half when LeBron really guarded him. Paul George was phenomenal. He was probably the best player on the floor, but 3 of the 4 of the stars showed out, and LeBron was not one of them. That's the only concern, but in terms of the Clippers, they're not fully loaded. So you can, when you have the best bench duo in the NBA, 18-point per game scores in Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams, you need those pieces in order to win. So the positive for the Clippers is you only lost by 2 points, not having those 2 guys off the bench. And for the Lakers, the positive is that you still pulled out a victory when LeBron was terrible.
I totally agree. And going off that, like you said, Anthony Davis, absolute monster. And the Clippers, most definitely, I don't think there's anyone in the NBA, quite frankly, who has an answer for Anthony Davis. I mean, Anthony Davis, easily one of the most unguardable players in the game today. You could even argue he might be the most unguardable player just because of his versatility offensively. I mean, he is so unpredictable offensively. He was stepping back, hitting threes yesterday. He could hit long jumpers. He's obviously a monster in the paint. He's a threat, everywhere on the court. LeBron James, in a sense, might even be a little more predictable offensively than Anthony Davis is, because you always know LeBron's in attack mode, whereas AD, being basically a 7-footer who could hit threes, who could hit jumpers, he's just a threat at the rim. I mean, the dude is unguardable. Like you said, don't even tell me Montrezl Harrell could stop Anthony Davis. He's a big guy, Montrezl Harrell, but he's not Anthony Davis. He's going to have trouble on the perimeter when AD's pulling up and hitting jumpers. And if Anthony Davis, if his jumper's falling, it's going to be a long night for Montrezl Harrell or anyone who has to guard him. But then also, like you said, key players for the Clippers, they were out yesterday, and I know I mentioned it, but for the Lakers, besides LeBron James and Anthony Davis, we know what we're going to get from them. They're going to show up in the big games, but for the Lakers to beat a team like the Clippers in a 7-game series, not only do they need A-plus performances from Anthony Davis and LeBron James for the entirety of the series, but they also need consistent, solid to even borderline great play from some of the role players. And that includes guys like Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, Dion Waiters, even J.R. Smith maybe. Dion Waiters showed up last night. He shot 5 of 10 from the field, 11 points. Kyle Kuzma, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 4 of 8 from the field. They were both pretty good yesterday. But Kuzma's a guy that, even Lakers fans would admit he's, sometimes hit or miss. But against a team like the Clippers, they got to be hits every game. You can't really, as role players, not show up. It's got to be a collective effort throughout the entirety of the team.
This game,
go ahead.
Piggyback off that, this game means absolutely nothing to the Western Conference Finals. Like we said before, these teams aren't at full strength. It's their first game back in the bubble, new environment, and every single player on the floor, none of them has ever played in an environment like this, never playing in front of fans. So it's a different atmosphere. It's a whole different ball game. Teams got to get in sync, got to get in rhythm. I don't think this weighs anything to the Western Conference Finals. But what you said before, that every Lakers got to be in sync, everyone's got to be firing all cylinders, I honestly disagree with that. LeBron James needs to be heroic. He needs to be the best player on the floor. I think he's going to need to average at least 30 and 10. I think probably more than that. But if he's the leading scorer averaging 30, 35 plus a game, it's a wrap. And he needs Anthony Davis to be dominant. If the two studs, if the two alphas, if they're balling out, the rest will follow, and it is a wrap. I don't think you need anything crazy from the role players. People got to do their job. I don't think you need to say Kyle Kuzma needs to give you 18 to 20 points a game. You don't need that. I mean, if one of those two guys, if LeBron and Anthony Davis aren't playing on one game and he steps up for 18 to 20 points, of course that's going to help. But the two alphas got to be the two dominant males on the court. They got to lead the way. And if they're not balling out, if they're not the two best players on the floor, I do not see the Lakers winning the series.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. I meant more, yeah. So obviously, yes, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, they will get theirs. When it counts, they're going to put up the numbers, hopefully. But, to counter that, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are probably going to go right back at him and put up pretty good numbers themselves. So now it comes down to who's got the better bench. On paper, it's definitely the Clippers. But I think guys like the Lakers have a lot of gritty guys who have been in deep postseason runs, unlike some of the guys that the Clippers have on their bench, and guys who have been in the NBA Finals before. So they're, I think, more fit for a playoff atmosphere. I know, obviously, having no fans is definitely different, but I honestly think at the end of the day, basketball is like the one sport where like players really will probably be the least affected by not having a live crowd, because basketball is a sport that when it's played in its natural state, it's really not played in front of a large crowd. People play pickup basketball in front of nobody and still give it their 100%. So I think the players don't necessarily, I don't think it's going to affect their play too much. I think maybe the way the game is played, maybe it's going to be a little more defense oriented. I think just not having those super loud crowd noise, I think the lane's going to be clogged up a little more. There's going to be more bodies just flying around. Whereas instead of, just jacking up threes all game, and like it's not going to be as much maybe one-on-one play. But as far as like the players like minding this, I think they're totally fine with this. And I think we're just going to see, guys ball out like they normally would. I don't think we're going to see any dramatic changes, especially for the star players. I think everyone's motivated to try to win this title and, finish the season out.
One thing for sure is I think we're we're ready to see an epic Western Conference Finals. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they're in the heart of their prime right now. They're as thirsty as could be for the title. And the same thing for LeBron James and Anthony Davis. People said Anthony Davis can't be a number one option. He forced his way to the Lakers, and he's playing one of his best seasons, if not his best season of his career. And LeBron, we know his story. They told us he's washed. He's no longer the best player in the world. His great days are behind them. Both sides have a lot to prove, and it's the Battle of LA. I'm so excited for what we have in stake coming up in the Western Conference Finals, as long as they both make it there. But my final takeaway from this is this game really has no preview in terms of the Western Conference Finals. Like this game, whoever won, whoever played well, I don't think it correlates to what's going to happen in the Western Conference Finals. Once playoff time starts, it's a whole different animal than the first game in this new bubble.
Yeah, no, my final takeaway, like I know we talked about it, but LeBron James does need to step up. He needs to be the clear-cut best player in the world to win this, because look, if it weren't for Anthony Davis's, pretty darn good, performance last night, I mean, it would have been, the Clippers would have washed them. I mean,
LeBron got bailed out yesterday.
No, he did get bailed out, and LeBron James even admitted himself. He admitted he's not played well the first three quarters of the game. So LeBron James, obviously, like that's why they got Anthony Davis for situations exactly like this, because they know LeBron. Look, the guy's in year 17. He's not in year 5. He's not in year 6. LeBron's gonna, he's taken a beating over the years. So like he's gonna have games potentially like this, but in the playoffs, honestly, against this team, I don't think he can afford to have games like this. Maybe in the regular season, but in the playoffs, LeBron really has to play up to his, standard, like we're used to seeing him in the playoffs if the Lakers want to defeat this team in a 7-game series. Anthony Davis will get his, but it really comes down to LeBron James solidifying himself still as the best player on the planet. That's my final takeaway. Yeah.
LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think if they're going to win this series, they're probably going to need to average 30 plus between both of them. And I think Definitely. It's really up to them. They have enough in the terms of talent between LeBron and Anthony Davis. They have more than enough to carry this load and will the Lakers to not only be in the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, but ultimately accomplishing their goal and winning a title. But that's going to wrap up today. Alex, I want to thank you for joining me.
Yep. Anytime, Brendan. Thank you.